I thought it was just issues related to sugar.
Yeah.
Because, I don't drink. I drink Coca-Cola. I've never drank in my life. I tried once and I was a bit noisy.
Yeah.
So I decided,
That was the end of it.
yeah, I decided, no, I'm not going to drink.
Yeah.
I just wanted people to understand the implications or the things that happen when one is about to have a stroke.
Welcome to Off the Record. This is the space where we leave the titles, the headlines, and public platforms and focus on the person behind the profile. Tonight, I have a very fortunate opportunity to have a guest feature man, a man I actually know from my childhood, and this is a man who's made a significant footprint in the Ndola space. This is Garry Rutherford, an entrepreneur and a driving force behind G. Rutherford Outdoor Advertising. It's a Zambian established outdoor advertising company with billboards that shapes the city skylines and brands that amplify businesses across major road networks in this town center. His work is quietly but very powerfully influential, and these brands are very much seen around the Copper Belt, particularly if you're in Ndola driving through, you see them. So, but beyond the structures and signatures, the man whose journey reflects a resilience, a vision, and a long-term commitment to enterprise. In this conversation, we go beyond the business into the mindset, the lifestyle, the values, and hopefully the personal philosophies that have shaped the man behind the brand. So, Mr. Garry Rutherford, thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And it's a great, great honor to have you here. So I'm really excited to dive a bit deeper into the profile of the man that you are, and get the audience to get a chance to experience you firsthand. So thank you again for coming.
Okay.
Behind the title, behind the prestige, they're hiding secrets, struggles, and stories untold. Meet the faces you know, but what about the people behind the masks? Who are they? Off the record.
For me to have food, it was a problem.
I was out of school for a year. I went to do some piecework, very long piecework.
My career didn't start all rosy. Of course, started on a faster note at some point.
I've never drank in my life. I tried once and I was a bit noisy.
Yeah.
So I decided,
That was the end of it.
yeah, I decided, no, I'm not going to drink.
Yeah.
I'm one of those few that after completing grade 4, I only stayed for 5 months and I was already in tertiary education.
The question came and I said, I want to be president. I was laughed at.
I just wanted people to understand the implications or the things that happen when one is about to have a stroke.
And I want to confess that at one given time, I nearly crucified myself.
The journey, the struggles, the triumphs, it's time to get real. From the operating room to the boardroom, from the podium to the pulpit, we're going off the record. Unfiltered, unscripted, unforgettable. Are you a coffee drinker? Would you like some water?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay.
I believe in having coffee just in the morning.
Okay, that's good. Well, would you like some water or anything like that?
Water will be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you mind getting us some water, please? Thank you, as we go through. So maybe as I'm pouring myself a coffee, because I'm actually a huge coffee fan.
Okay.
So before the branding, maybe going a bit further into the childhood, because I'm always appreciating people's journeys and how they became who they are. You know, I think my dad always used to say, there's nurture versus nature. Right?
Yes.
So maybe taking us back to the childhood, were there any, highlights or moments in your childhood that really sparked that you can remember as being favorite moments for you that helped define you as the person?
First of all, I would like to thank Luna Media for the invitation.
Yes.
And I was overwhelmed when I was asked to come here.
Yeah.
And I've come here actually to shed the light about Garry Rutherford as an individual.
Great.
I grew up in Hillcrest in Ndola here. I was born in the year 1959. If we go back, it'll be 67 years old this year. Just last month, I suffered a stroke. After that stroke, I realized that I was aging a bit. And, for people who haven't had strokes, believe me, it's not a very pleasant thing. The 3 that I experienced, I can remember them.
So there were 3 strokes?
Yes, I've had 3 of them, and I didn't realize the first 2 were actually strokes. First one, I felt thirsty. All of a sudden, I felt thirsty, and I could feel my body shutting down. And then I went to, my guys were doing some work down the road, and I walked down the road. I walked across the road, and then when I got across the road, I started feeling weak. So I went to hug the pipe of the billboard, and my whole body just shut down, and I just fell down like jelly.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Then I said, Garry, what's going on here? Then I felt very thirsty, so I asked my guy, can you rush to the house and go and get me a Coke, bottled Coke? And then he brought the Coke. I started vomiting some yellow stuff. Yeah, then he brought me a Coke. I drank half of the Coke, and then I was up and running again. Then when we went to see the doctor said, no, your sugar levels are low. Yeah, then,
Did you pick up on the stroke?
Yeah, then from there, okay. Then I went a year after that. I was home, and then I woke up in the morning, and then I just felt my head spinning. So I was wondering, I said, Ish, are you going now or what? Yeah, then I tried to come off the bed. I fell back onto the bed. So then I told my wife to go and get my mother and my sister, tell them to come. Then they came, picked me up, went to the doctor. Same story, low sugar.
It's not making sense.
Yeah, it's not like me. So, okay. And then after that, I stayed, I was fine for the past 6-7 years from that time. And then just last year towards the beginning of November, the month of my birthday, I woke up in the morning and I found my mouth had moved. And this happened overnight sleep. So when I woke up, I went to the mirror and I saw my face had moved quite a bit. And luckily that morning, I actually carried some chewing gum with me. So I started chewing, and then after a day or 2, I found it had actually moved back into proportion.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I flew to Lusaka. I'd gone to Mainasoko, got some medication there. Then when my kids heard I was there and I had a stroke, they said to me, Dad, we must take you to CFB. So I went to CFB hospital in Lusaka, and I went to see a doctor, is it Kangwa, if I'm not mistaken? Yes, and then after that, she did some tests on me. Then I was referred to go and have an MRI test.
Yeah.
And then after the MRI test, I had to come back to see the specialist. And the specialist mentioned to me that this stroke you've had is your 3rd stroke.
Wow.
So I couldn't remember. 3rd stroke.
Wow.
I didn't think the other 2 were strokes. I thought they were just low BP or low sugar.
Low sugar issues,
yeah. So and then they were showing me. Now I have a funny head. It's slightly different for many people.
Okay.
I have 2 knobs, one here and one here. Yeah, it sounds funny, but anyway, it's there.
Okay.
And then the first one was here, the second one was here, and then the third one was this part of my lip from here all the way up to here. So, it was, I couldn't believe, because when I woke up, I just felt all the side was numb.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I never knew that's what strokes do. Yeah, so it was numb, and it was very uncomfortable. And even up till today, it's okay, I'm okay now. I can't, it's just normal. It's normal now. But now, now you got all these things you're not supposed to be taking and all that jazz. Yeah. So you're just trying to adjust everyday life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting share, and thanks for sharing that, because that's something very personal as well.
Yeah.
A bit of background. My father actually, Alex Mashano, died of a stroke, but it was his 3rd stroke that took him. So it was quite interesting for us. It was quite sudden.
Yeah.
And I just also recall, because I was kind of close to being present. I came back from Australia, flying back after so many years.
Yes.
And spoke to him in the morning. Everything was normal.
Yeah.
And then on my way in, just before the cowboy turn off to get to Baluba farm area, I heard, oh, he's just collapsed. So it was almost like it can happen at such a
Yes,
quick instant,
yes,
and
yes.
people who are in it don't actually realize the symptoms.
Yes.
And he had those two previous ones, but this one, before the last one that took him, really paralyzed half of his body. So I think the question I was really curious about there, because I really personally was affected by that whole experience, is were there any kind of thoughts, or did you know, what was going through your mind in particularly the third one, where you feel like you're losing control? Obviously, you also didn't know what was going on. But how was that experience for you, and was it a difficult one? Were you panicking through that process? I mean, how was that experience for you?
Funny, I didn't really feel anything, because the first and second one, I didn't realize that those were actually strokes. You know, I thought it was just issues related to sugar.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't drink. I drink Coca-Cola. I've never drank in my life. I tried once and I was a bit noisy.
Yeah.
So I
That was
decided,
the end of it.
yeah, I decided, no, I'm not going to drink.
Yeah.
But otherwise, for me, I just wanted people to understand the implications or the things that happen when one is about to have a stroke, you know, and what I experienced.
That. And I think it's important for people to know. But do you feel like maybe, or did they share? Was it lifestyle related? Because I know also for the life of an entrepreneur, the crazy hours, the lifestyle we all live, we eat irregular times.
Yeah.
Do you think that's been a build up over the years, or you think it
I
does not?
did a funny that day when it happened. I felt that I was very uncomfortable, even on the pillow.
Yeah.
You know, I like a soft pillow. When I put my head on a pillow, my head sinks in nicely, so I feel comfortable. But that day, I don't know, I felt like I was sleeping on a bag of cement.
It was that different?
Yeah, that's how bad it was. Wow. It was like a build-up, or maybe, you know, maybe because I felt that I was sleeping on something extremely hard, and maybe the blood circulation was not. You know, I don't know. That's how I felt. And those are the things that I always remember when I go to bed at night. Is make sure the pillow is extremely soft and I'm comfortable. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, so it's quite an experience.
I think health is very important.
Yeah.
And I think we as Zambians maybe don't pay enough attention to, at least us as we're growing up younger, we were reckless, and, you know, people here, I'm glad you don't drink, but some people do drink, that affects it. But coming back to that question on the childhood side, because I'm very curious about, you know, what formulated you as the person that you've become.
Yes.
Were there things maybe in your childhood again where you feel it was part of what helped you form your character as a person? Like, I don't know, some people talk about discipline was from my father or my uncle, like all the influential people that helped form your character in your years from the 50s.
I'll tell you one thing that I learned when I was growing up. You know, my father introduced me to playing golf. Okay. And at the golf club, I realized that there's a lot of matured people there. There was nothing like this Caponia nonsense. No. Most of the people that were there were mostly managing directors, most senior people in Ndola at that particular time.
Sure.
And, you know, they believed if you were good at golf, they would support you. I remember my first set of golf clubs, we used to get the cassava tree and then get somebody to create something like a golf club.
Wow.
That's how we started, my late brother and I. And then from there, you found the people. I remember my first set of golf clubs was given to me by the managing director of Gurok Ropes. At that particular time, his name was Barry Baker. I'm sure he's the late now. He was quite old at that particular time. And I remember his words. He says, "Garry, you're a good golfer. This is from me to you. Enjoy these clubs." Yeah. So, you know, we miss things like that where people would identify talent and support talent. You know, I don't know, it was from that time that I learned about giving. Okay. You know, I know there are many people who have things and don't believe in sharing. Sure. Yeah, so, I mean, that's what made me even, you know, have a more matured mind and look at things differently. Over the years, a lot of people decided to live in Ndola. I'm talking about many people from like the colored community. We are very few of us that have remained in the city of Ndola. And I've always had a love for the city. You know, I was born in 1959, as I mentioned earlier, and I've always had a passion to do things for this town. Yeah. Even when I started the Keep Ndola Clean campaign, that was about cleaning the city. Mainly, it was about cleaning the Kansenshi Cemetery, which was a mess. Okay, we tried to do it, you know, through the contributions that we had from people, but looking at it that way, it was a bit difficult because people, you can't keep on knocking on the same doors, trying to get contributions. It doesn't make sense. I would have preferred if it was coming directly from the council, where anybody who was getting buried at the cemetery, I know now it's 25,000. Out of the 25, they would put a 5,000 just for general maintenance.
Yeah, sure.
So that whoever's going to do it doesn't have to be me. It could be anybody, but the place must be clean. And it breaks my heart when I think of Kansenshi Cemetery, because I have over 25 members of my family resting in that place, and there are certain parts of the cemetery where I can't go in there because of the state it's in.
Yeah, can't access it.
Yeah. So maybe that's something that our city fathers need to look at. It's not about the money. I don't believe. I mean, the Department of Health, I don't know, maybe every day they must have maybe 2-3 burials a day. And you're talking about, or maybe more if possible.
Yeah.
So they should have a fund which should actually go towards just the general cleaning.
Maintenance as well,
Yes, and then also I feel sorry for the ladies, those who do go for funerals there, and they would like to use the toilet there. For us men, it's easy, you go behind the tree, but for women, it's something else. So maybe that's something that we need to look at. I mean, I went for a funeral in Osaka about 3 weeks ago for a friend of mine, Clive Shamwana, and I was looking at that memorial park. My God. That's something that is needed in Ndola, and that is needed ASAP. Where you feel that even when you enter the cemetery, it's like you're entering a park.
That's true.
And that's something that we need.
Yeah.
That's something that needs to be introduced in Zambia. It's not, what I'm seeing here now, it's like a cemetery, it's like a dumping place.
Yeah.
And there's no continuation. After one is buried, people just forget about it and move on with their lives, and they just leave it. It can't be. They have to come up with an idea, something similar to what's going on at Memorial Park.
Yeah. No, I have a partner, and she can't even find or locate her mom. Buried there, it's just forgotten, buried over. People did whatever they did, relocations.
That's actually.
So that's a very, very sad thing, and I think a very personal, and I admire that. So you mentioned a bit about making Ndola clean. So what was that about for you, and why did you feel invested to start something like that?
Okay, what I felt is, I felt that, not that I felt that the council were not doing their job. I just thought it would add some value for us as Ndola residents to come up with something like that. I felt that, not that I felt that the council were not doing their job. I just thought it would add some value for us as Ndola residents to come up with something like that, and also contribute and help the local authority in cleaning up the city. We did bins. There were bins where you could brand them with your company name. And then we'd go to the civic center. These are the bins that we're donating towards through the Keep Ndola Clean, for example, through G. Rutherford out there advertising. Where would you want them planted?
Yeah.
And then we would have them drilled into the ground so that all we do is just put bags inside.
That's it.
When the council truck is passing with garbage collection, just take the bags, put a new bag in, and take the garbage and go and throw it. So that's something that I think we need to reintroduce now. Why? Because we've got so many street vendors on the street, and after everybody's gone, I do this quite often. Maybe when I go to Lija Palace at times when I'm going to eat something, I travel from that road. I think it's Chisokena Road, and when you go in that road at night, it's an eyesore because everybody just does their business, leaves everything as is, and they go. So all the mess is there.
Yep.
And I would like to see see this happen in our town as we move forward. We're having all the roads redone. Most of the roads will be redone in the CBD of the town.
Yep.
And what we would like to see is that the council itself is overwhelmed with whatever they are doing. They need to start working with private people now. Have people who are in garbage collection. They have the whatever it would mean for them to collect the garbage.
Compactor trucks, yeah.
Yes, and then all you do is just check on how the work is being done. That's all.
Yeah.
And people will appreciate. Even when you go to them, you knock on their doors, we're looking for some donation to do this and this. They'll appreciate, and that's all the businessman wants.
Yeah.
People are willing to contribute. They are. I know they are. But when they don't see things moving, nobody's willing to do that.
No, that's a good point. I actually have a garbage collection business in Dola.
Oh, okay.
And I started that for that reason.
Okay.
There's, I think, lots to be said, but I feel maybe putting it back to you, something we discussed earlier off the record was, some people like me who've had the opportunity for many reasons, gone abroad, seen some of these innovations at work.
Yes.
Completely.
Yeah.
Come back and try and introduce that concept.
Yes.
But there is a generation gap, I feel. Sometimes I could be wrong, you can correct me.
Yeah.
In your generation, or even with Dad, with the parastatal support, things seem to be clean and running and functioning. And there was a sense of pride, I feel, at least when I left.
Yes.
Coming back, I'm like, hey, I can make a contribution here. Let me start this business. We find either it's the red tape issues.
Yes.
In my case, I would say sometimes not having access to the wisdom and the expertise of the more established houses in Dola, that you just have almost too many barriers of entry that even if you do start, the business doesn't sustain itself. Because you're almost fighting the basic fundamentals that are there in other countries. So how would you, I guess in your case, maybe let's start there, then you can talk about how to help maybe an aspiring waste management collector in our city. But when you started your business, were there maybe potential people that believed in you that helped you succeed before you started your business? And if so,
I'll tell you one thing that is very difficult to do is to start up a new business.
Why is that?
Yeah, the reason being is that you have all the bigger players in the game. And you know how I think we sprung board here, from where we started to where we reached, is that we decided to do it in the Copper Belt.
Okay.
Lusaka, the biggest problem that we have in Zambia with most of the other outdoor advertising companies is that they think Lusaka is Zambia. So everybody wants to concentrate on Lusaka. So what we did is we came out of Lusaka into the other places. Now what was happening is you have a situation where you want a billboard in Kapiri. We're going to put a billboard for you there. After 3 months, you say, no, we're canceling the contract. So you are stuck with the structure because it's a permanent structure. And then, you're having these problems with the local authorities that, and then everybody thinks that the ones who run outdoor business make a lot of money. We've got our own headaches, believe me. I've got so many billboards in wrong places, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And, it's after this election, I want to do a stock of what we have in certain places which I feel are dormant and just bring them back into areas where we think we can do better business.
So how do you define wrong locations? Because I've been curious about that because, I do see your billboards everywhere. How do you actually map it to say, let's put it here? Is it because of demand or?
Okay, what happens usually, that comes usually from a client.
Okay.
A client will say, no, I want something at Luansha Turnoff. Okay, Luansha Turnoff, where about there? Then you go to the maybe RDA and then you get permission, you go and put it there. But then what's happening is we're experiencing a lot of theft now.
And the scrap metal business.
Yes, the scrap metal business. Just as I'm talking to you today.
Yeah.
This morning I had guys that gone out of town and then they phoned us to tell us, one of the billboards has dropped.
By itself.
Yeah, by itself.
And I've seen your reinforcements. You guys go deep in the concrete.
So for us, we go 150 to 200, 1 meter to 2 meters down. So dropping is unheard of. So my guys go there, and all they do is my foreman phones me and says, "Oh, boss, there were guys here with a cutting torch." Can you imagine? They work, and because the grass is so long. Cars will be passing. The guys are working, so they cut all the legs with the cutting torch, and dropped the billboard on its face. They started cutting the bolts, the bolts where we tie the structures on, and then they left it there. I don't know. They must have been disturbed because they don't leave. Because we experienced one of those near Luansha Turnoff. They cut the structure down because it was quite a bit off the road. And they took everything and they cut those things into pieces. And they took it to a scrap metal in Luansha. It was in Luansha where they went.
Wow.
Yeah, so especially when the billboards are too far out, it's a big problem.
Supervision.
Yeah, because you don't make, to be honest with you, I keep quarreling with my people for marketing that the rates are too low. You know, when I look at what other rates people are charging, I mean, it's not making business sense.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. You know, everybody wants a better salary, but where does that better salary come from if you're not making enough money?
The old age employee versus employer.
Yes.
And I think that's a good point you raised. A lot of people aren't aware of the business costs and operating, because I've operated a business in Australia and Indonesia before.
Yes.
The costs in Zambia are higher. There's just so many unforeseen or foreseen expenses that you just don't factor in your business plan.
No, I agree.
And so from the outside, people might judge and say, but obviously you've got all these, you're making money, but they don't understand the operating and maintenance costs of that. So what do you think needs to change in that aspect? Because we'll come back to maybe the whole aspect of how can we move forward in Ndola. And I'm very passionate about going deeper into some of the projects you're actively working on and want to work on, but let's go back to what's happened in the past. What do you think could change or needs to change for businesses like yours to thrive better in Ndola? Because we don't want you to leave, and we don't want I'm like you, I want Copperbelt to thrive.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest?
I'll be very honest. At one point last year, I was contemplating on moving into Lusaka, to be honest. Reason being, I felt there was nothing going on in Ndola. You may say, what do you mean when you say there's nothing going on? You know, over the years, if there's one thing that we've struggled to do is get business from Ndola entities. Ndola entities have not been very supportive to our business. Reason being, I fail to understand. We don't get business support really from Ndola companies. There's only one company that is supporting us right now is Nelkant Cables.
Nelkant, yeah.
Yeah, Nelkant are the ones who are supporting us. We have 3 billboards from them. And I'm most grateful to them for supporting us. But basically, the other companies, I have not been very supportive. And most of our business, to be very honest with you, comes from companies in Osaka. And what we've really suffered in Ndola is that most institutions, their head offices are in Osaka. And everybody is either a branch manager or he's reporting to somebody in Osaka and can't make a decision. So clever me, 10 years ago, I decided to move my marketing office into Lusaka.
Okay.
So I have a fully fledged marketing office in Lusaka, which services the whole country. So what it does is that they get all the business from there, and we are only sent materials. The materials come up here, and we want this to be put here, this to be put there, put. That's how we work.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah. So so far it has worked well.
Okay.
You know, and to be honest with you, I'm actually worried about our city of Ndola. But the transformation that I'm seeing now, I can see there's a light at the end of the tunnel, to be honest with you. When I look around Ndola, even some of the old buildings now are changing.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at Savoy Hotel, for
I was going to ask
example.
about that, yeah.
Savoy is probably something that all us who have stayed in Ndola should be proud of. And that's one of the things. There's other things that are going on around the city. I may just divert a bit from what we're discussing here.
It's okay.
I am doing it with a few other business people. We want to have a dinner dance, where we are going to honor all those people that we think or we have identified have contributed to the transformation of the city of Ndola.
Okay.
I believe that with the Mufulera Road being redone up to Sakanya, we'll have a lot of, I do believe we get a lot of Congolese people coming into Ndola. A lot of people have done extremely well. Could be the guest houses, the lodges. They have done quite well because of the influx of these people coming in.
Sure.
And I noticed they come in on a Friday.
Leave on a Sunday or Monday.
They go back on a Sunday or Monday. They come here and buy goods, you know. I heard from one of them, he was complaining, the dollar rate is gone. The kwacha has become very powerful now. We're getting less for our money.
Yeah.
But it's one thing that we also want to enjoy that part. You know, the rate is high. It was not benefiting us as locals.
True.
But now as the rate is going down, it is now starting to benefit even the local people. People are now buying all sorts of things, you know, so it is beneficial to our local people.
Okay.
So, as I go around in Ndola, like I mentioned, I am extremely proud now. Even now I look and because I know that most of the people who are actually doing these things. And I've always said one thing: the only people that will develop our country is us Zambians.
Yeah.
We're saying foreign investment. Foreign investment, which foreign investment? People have seen the potential in this country, and that's why people are coming here.
True.
I believe in giving credit to people. I'm sorry to divert this, but
no, it's good. I
just want to say that I was extremely touched. Just the other night, I was watching a video on this mining in Saka in Johannesburg, South Africa, where our president was given the highest platform to speak on behalf of our country and the mining sector. I believe that President HH is doing a great job, and these are things that as Zambians we need to appreciate. When you have somebody riding a boat and he's steering the boat well, let's give him the support. There could maybe not be support from others, but let's support. It's not easy to run a country.
No.
But I believe personally that apart from the mining sector, we looked at the mining sector, which we can see started lifting off the ground. We're looking at Ndola. I looked at Ndola, and even the road network now is starting to change. I remember the 2-lane road from Hospital Roundabout going right the way to Jacaranda Mall. Now we're looking at a 4-lane road. And these are things that we may not appreciate, but these are things that are happening.
And they make a difference.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. I saw a circular from Ndola City Council where they'll start doing the one from Kafubu Mall. They're going to start eating into that Kafubu Mall top car park. It goes all the way through, right through the middle of the town, right up to Joe's Motors. So, all that area.
President Avenue.
Yes, President Avenue. So, these, they may not seem something tangible, but, it changes. I remember President Avenue was like a hell run few months ago, but slowly,
it's getting there.
and I know there's and then these are things that will improve on even the outlook of the city. And this is something that even I would want to see the local authority. As these things are happening, let's get the business people involved. One, let's have the local authority summoning through the mayor's office, summoning all business entities, probably the ones who are based in, like, for instance, starting point President Avenue, where all the buildings must be painted. It is your responsibility to make sure outside your shops are clean all the time. We don't realize this. There are people who are coming to visit Zambia every day.
Yeah.
And what kind of image do we get when people don't even care? Well, everybody's just interested in having to make money, and that's it.
True.
Yeah.
So on the same point about the current projects, you talked about the Garry. I just want to drive back there. Are there some names that maybe you're thinking of could be beneficial to attend this dinner that you're talking about? Because if we're going to get the Ndola supporters on board, I guess maybe giving some indication on the type of profiles you're looking at so it can attract more people to support. And
okay, I'll tell you what. This is about appreciating people who I feel, or who others may also feel, who are going to be part of this, who they feel have contributed. I mean, out of all the people that I have seen here, out of all the business entities that I know, we have Zimat. We have Zed Moya.
Yeah, Mr. Moya.
We have Akim Chabo, the one who's got those apartments on Dag Drive. And then he's put up this Copper Crest Hotel. And then he's also got some other apartments and some other issues. And then we have all these. We have here where there's Handyman's Paradise.
Yes.
He's also putting up. He's put up that structure there, and I hear Handyman's Paradise is coming out. They're redoing the whole area, so that whole area will need to be done.
Yeah, Golden Blue is the same project.
Yes, and then like I said, Mr. Muya's done Savoy Hotel. He's done that other building, his old office there. They've done that other area there. You know, and then we run through President Avenue, where F&B Bank is. That's also part of Zimat. We run through President Avenue up to where the Zimat Mall is there. I remember that used to be Dooley Motors from
Yes, I
one
remember
side to
Dooley.
the other, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, that's part of them. And then we go along President Avenue. You know, and then you've got another Zimat shop there. Then not forgetting Rique's. Rique's has also contributed
Really
quite a
transformed.
bit in Dola. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here now we've just opened a new restaurant, Mozambique.
Mozambique at the corner
And for
there.
me, I like going to Mozambique, but this Mozambique here is probably the best Mozambique out of
Better
all.
than Kitwe, really?
I think it's better than Kitwe.
Okay, I hope it's not
because it has
affecting
that-
your health too much.
No,
huh?
no,
'Cause
no.
you-
Yeah, I
you
know
gotta
the
eat
doctor
right.
actually warned me not to be eating too many prawns. Yes, and I like prawns.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
That's good.
you know, he's also contributed a lot to Indoor. So as you move around, I'm taking a list of all of them. And then we just want to arrange a day or an evening where we can also incorporate and send an invitation to the head of state to come.
To come and
because we also want him to know that there are people out there who are pushing
Yep.
and making a change to these cities like Ndola.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great, and putting us back on the map because this place was the mecca of Copperbelt at some point.
Yes.
So making that great would be a really great start. So just in terms of some of the struggles you touched on, I think our audience are always curious about, what molds someone to be successful, but also the realities you talked about with business. Are there maybe other challenges that we may have in Ndola right now that you think need addressing, that if we address them, it may be bringing our whole environment back on the map in Ndola, outside what you've discussed?
Okay, I always believe that if we had, seminars or even meetings where all major players of certain industries come together, you brainstorm, then you can come up with results of what you think. Yeah, and solutions can always be found. But there's sometimes you just find people sit in a boardroom or in a meeting and just decide, let's just do this without consulting the others and what's really affects them in terms of business.
True.
So that's something that I hope as we move forward to see if we can all incorporate each other and understand the problems that one goes through.
The real problems,
yes,
not
the
just
real
from
problems,
a social media aspect, but the realities.
Yes.
Because I remember even as a kid, Dad would take me to Rotary as a young person, and Lions Club for Mom. But there was sports and things really. I remember even you didn't mention this, but Gomes is a close family friend.
Yes.
And they were quite pivotal in the logistics side of things.
Yeah.
And he's now since taken over, Leroy's taken over his business. But again, back to my question, now moving it to the present and the future, I feel like the youth were more engaged than the institutions. I mean, now I hear there's chambers, not I hear actually, I'm part of, there's chambers and places like that. But do you, from your observation, feel there's enough support or platforms where people can network, can share these ideas currently? And where do the young go? Because I don't feel like I would see, when I do attend some of these things, I don't see a lot of the young people as engaged as when I was younger, as a road track, for example. Dad was young in these days, but there were these places that were really well established.
Yes.
I think even Rotary used to run at Savoy at some point.
Yes.
So it just feels like they all either died down or they become a bit lethargic. So what do you recommend?
I know there's Ndola Chambers of Commerce. I always believe that whoever heads Ndola Chambers of Commerce, I think it's a lady, if I'm not
No, it's a lady, yes.
Yeah. Sometimes there should be certain people that you would want to be members of that association. I personally feel that we want to target certain people who you think will have a meaningful contribution to whatever you want to achieve.
To the agenda,
I've always believed that I'm a major player in Ndola. Not because of whatever I've done. I just feel that I'm a major player. And I feel that I can contribute quite a bit to this city.
Yeah, true. So are you going to join the chamber? You're saying this as be a part of the chamber?
No, I would like to join the chamber because I feel that they have a lot of potential people who actually belong to Ndola Chambers of Commerce. And sometimes I hear that we've had this person, maybe a government a government ministers come and is there, and there's questions being asked related to certain things that could even be affecting me as a business. So we miss out on such opportunities because I do believe that they do receive a lot of important and influential people.
Yeah, true. No, I think we should do more of that. And I think part of the reason for this show and showing the lifestyle aspects of someone like you is you're also shedding light on the relevant places. Because sometimes people don't even not only know where to go, but they don't even know what exists or what can work or what used to work. So I really appreciate that. So do you feel like at the moment, in terms of your current position, what are the exciting projects that maybe you're looking at into the future with this new infrastructure changes that you feel maybe your business can benefit from, but maybe someone like us who are also up and coming? Where do you think we should focus our attention for?
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll talk about us, for example. The new road network will create a lot of opportunities, not only for me, but I guess for some other people. But over the years, I just want to thank the Lord for the vision and the eyes that I have. When I see things being done, I look around and I always look at business opportunities. And many people would call Ndola the billboard city. Those days, it was called the billboard city. I believe that was a lot of opportunities for us to have made a good amount of business for Ndola.
So how, maybe two questions to finish, but what would the older self, advise the younger self? Are there any things maybe you would change differently, or what advice would you have given yourself with what you know now about yourself? And then the last question to finish would be, what's the sort of legacy, or how would you like to be remembered when everything is said and done? So maybe just to start with advice you'd give to the younger self, because there's always me as the host, but also as the student here listening to some of those wisdoms.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I would like to encourage all the younger people to always try and emulate the elders and the contribution the elders have made. And they did it because they had to do it for the survival of their business and even for their families. And there's a trend that I noticed with the younger people nowadays. There's so many things that the younger people want, which we never had. I laugh sometimes when people say, I want an iPhone 17. And I look at the phone costing 43,000. And I say, you know what? If there's anything, I only have Infinix phones and Techno, so why would you want to 43? Yeah, and you don't want to work. Because, people don't want to work, and that's a sad part of things. But we need to get people to start working, people getting careers. And, you'll be able to, you want to get a person who is an experienced marketer. All you do is get in touch with the Zambia Institute of Marketing, and they say, we've got 20 marketers there. For which company, what kind of business do you do advertising? We've got 3 or 4 of them. So, it's coming. I can see it happening. We are failing our kids are failing to understand. Once you have something, start learning how to handle that something.
It's an asset.
And then you don't have to start suffering. Because when I'm gone, believe me, I dread that day. At this moment, I do. I have my second-born daughter who's working at my office currently now in Lusaka. And my prayer and hope for her is that she may learn to handle the company, because after I've gone, it's them now who have to handle the business.
No, Mr. Rutherford, I think there's so many more questions I would love to ask, so we might have to get you back on this show. I'm very, very excited. And again, for the audience listening, this gala event or dinner that you're trying to propose, I think that'll be such a great thing. So if there are ways, maybe when that time comes, we can reach you. Are there platforms or any places our audience can reach you to ask more questions? Is there any place, what would you recommend is the best way to reach you?
My numbers, maybe I can give my numbers.
If you're comfortable, or a website or an email address, you get a lot of calls.
I can give my numbers. I don't have a problem.
Sure. Okay.
My numbers are 0974 884 857 or 0955 883980.
I think you heard it first here at Off the Record. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Rutherford, thank you very much for your time and for your insights. I personally am very, very excited to see how we can all support you in bringing these pioneers of Zambia, of Ndola, back to be showcased so us younger people can remember who they are and celebrate them. And hopefully I'm voting for you to be one of those as well, because I see your work everywhere I drive.
Yes.
So I'm sure I speak for a lot of us in Ndola to say we really appreciate your work and your legacy. And for the rest of us, thank you very much for joining us. I'm Aaron Machano, and you